morning. It's time for Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I hope you're toking up and tuning in because we're going to have a great time today. Right now, we're sitting here talking to my good friend, Dr. Lawrence Pasternack, and we're going to do a cornucopia stuff today, brother. It's going to be way, way cool.
Well, hello, John. We've known each other for, I guess, 3.5 years now.
3-4 years, yeah.
Yeah, and we were both really active during the 788 campaign, and we kind of were time and time again showing up at the same events.
I love showing up at these events, and I keep seeing the same people, friends, over and over, you bet. Yeah. And making new friends at these, too.
Yeah, I remember you being sort of surprised to have a professor from OSU present.
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, and you kind of thought that I was just sort of like a curious bystander, and then you were sort of surprised, I think, that
you kept going right on.
That I kept going, yeah.
That's the thing, the dedication to 788 and the dedication to freeing the plant here in Oklahoma. I love that. That's just, you bet.
Yeah, I remember way back when I was young, just thinking that the federal prohibition, I grew up in Canada, but, and Canada was nowhere near as severe as the United States when it came to drug policy. But my perspective on the United States, which spilled over into Canada, was it's just completely terrible public policy. I've had this lifelong attitude that the war on drugs is basically a war of the government against its own people. And it's against the people choosing to do what they want to do with their own bodies. And so when you look at the whole range of drugs, from things that are healthy and relatively innocuous like cannabis, even all the way up to cocaine and heroin, that we don't want people to use these more dangerous drugs. But at the same time, the amount of government force used to try to stop it causes so much more harm than those drugs themselves. And we see in other countries, right? We see in countries like Portugal, for instance, where they don't have the prison population, they don't have the crime and so on. They just have all of these drugs as decriminalized.
There you go, decriminalized, and that way they can treat rather than incarcerate.
Right. Yep. Oklahoma, for much of the time that I've lived here, I've lived in Oklahoma for about 25 years now. It's had the highest incarceration rate on the entire planet. The entire planet. Think about, dictators, little dictatorships in Africa, or think about countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia. We had more people per capita incarcerated in Oklahoma than anywhere in the world. Wow. And overwhelmingly, it was because of our extreme drug laws.
Right. Because it was whenever they find something, they used to find something, it's always piling on the charges. And once you get in the system, you're in the system, and they're going to start working you. It's just money, and time. You're just always hung up in it.
Yeah. So, even though what I do at OSU, I'm philosophy professor, director of religious studies, doesn't have anything to do with what this is for me as a personal mission. But this personal mission is something that I've felt deeply attached to for my whole adult life.
Oh, yeah.
And when I heard about the 788 campaign, I guess I first heard about it in late 2017. If I heard about it earlier, I would have been part of it. I contacted Norma, I contacted Frank Grove, and I met with them, and I let them know that I was there to help contribute and organized events. I think one of the first places where we met was an event in Edmond, where that I actually organized, that had a debate, right, pro and con. I think we were just talking about
that one. I didn't know you organized that one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's 3 years later.
There you go.
And
still here.
We're still at it. That's right. Yeah.
And I talk about all the time, I don't like restrictions, but I do like regulations. Because the regulations, that is my medicine, and I want stuff made exactly how it should be made.
Yeah, and part of the way in which I see the regulations is I kind of like the idea of two different streams, because the idea that somebody could grow cannabis and sell it at a farmer's market, I'm not so opposed to that either. So what I would like to see is a very well-structured medical program with appropriate testing regulations, all the public safety issues, and so on the one hand. But on the other hand, treat it like a plant and allow for, with a full access program, gifting and sharing, so that, people could just say, I have this home grow, just say, buddy, you want some of it. Or just minor licensing for things like a farmers market scenario.
Right.
So I like the idea of, and that gives people two different options, right? So people who are looking at it as a medicine that they have to be very, very careful about dosing and so on, they have that path. And then the other path is just like people can make their beer at home and so on.
Exactly.
Right.
I've done it. Beer
Yeah.
and wine. I've made them both
Yeah.
at the house. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what, cause we know everybody is different, and everybody has a different profile.
Yep.
So some plants going to produce more than others, and some plants you're not going to be able to use all of it sometimes. So I love that program.
Yeah. And one thing that I find to be unfortunate about where we are right now is that it's extremely difficult to find a dispensary that carries much at all that is not high THC.
Yeah.
And and so all those people who were looking for the medical benefits for chronic pain, for inflammatory disorders, for autoimmune disorders, and so on, who will be more likely to benefit from more CBD than THC, it's almost impossible for them to find anything anywhere. That a dispensary might have one item,
I agree.
right, or two items, but then you're kind of tied into just the one thing that they have.
That's it.
And I really want our program to mature in a way that they do have in other states, where there is more variety available.
And that's one of those deals. I always recommend CBD to people first.
Yeah.
And on that note right there, we're going to take a short break. Shout out to all our sponsors. I'm sitting here talking to Dr. Lawrence Pasternack. I hope you toke up and tune back in with Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Welcome back to Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I hope you toked up and tuned in during the break, because we're sitting here doing some cool stuff. Now I'm going to tell you, if you want to be in the audience of Wake and Bake with Old School and Co., all you got to do is go to Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Or if you want to be a supporter, you can go to www.patreon.com, Old School and Co. You can get tickets there. Tickets are free, and we also book guests there also. Right on.
All right.
And, I also forgot. Now, on my show, we have fun in the audience, and I was also voted the #1 top cannabis advocate in Oklahoma.
Congratulations.
Right on.
Yeah.
And again, talking to my good friend, Dr. Lawrence Pasternack.
All right.
We're showing some cool stuff now. The first segment, we didn't tell everybody what this was.
Yeah.
But this, we're going to show you how to make some good stuff at the house.
So in our first segment, I mentioned the difficulty of finding a variety of products in dispensaries that aren't high THC, products that are CBD dominant, and they're few and far between. There are a few brands out there. Can I mention some brands?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nature's Key, I think, is an excellent brand, and they're hard to find, unfortunately. But they have gummies that range all the way from 25 milligrams of CBD to 1 milligram of THC up in terms of those THC quantities. And so they're a company that really focuses upon the whole range of ratios between CBD and THC. But they're not in many dispensaries.
Right.
And so when you go to a dispensary, what you normally find will just be a 5 milligram THC gummy or a 10 milligram THC gummy, sometimes a 1-to-1.
Right.
But there really is not a lot of variety. And in 2019, I was concerned about that. I was concerned that there just were not enough CBD options out there. So I came up with this kit to show various processors and dispensary owners, to give them a kind of picture of the idea that I had. And the idea that I had was to make it possible for a dispensary to make customized tinctures right in their own place. And so they would start out with different isolates or concentrates, and a patron would come in and they'd say, you know, I want to try a 3-to-1 ratio or a 5-to-1 ratio or whatever it is. They could even adjust terpene profiles and so on. Because if you know what you need, or even if you don't know what you need and you need a place to start, then rather than going to 20 different dispensaries to find that one thing you're looking for, you can go to a dispensary that could start you off with, say, a 3-to-1 ratio.
Right.
You could try it, you can come back, they could adjust it, and you can progressively figure out what really is best for you. And we just didn't have that here in Oklahoma. Other states do have customized tinctures available in dispensaries, but we did not have it here. And this year, in 2021, I put together a bill so that it would just be clear that dispensaries would be able to do it, because there was an issue in terms of the final testing rule. And so it would allow basically final testing on this, say, THC oil, final testing on this CBD oil, that then with that final testing, all you do is mix them together by a ratio, and then the simple math tells you what you have in your customized tincture. Unfortunately, and Representative Eccles was kind enough to be the House author for it, but another representative...
That would be House Speaker John Eccles,
That's right. That's
right.
Representative T.J. Marty, who's a pharmacist, was just concerned that there was just too many ways in which an untrained person at a dispensary could go wrong.
Right.
And so we're kind of still thinking about how to fix this legally. But in the meantime, what I want to do today is I want to show people what they could do for themselves at home.
And this is one of the deals we were talking earlier. People know I've got prostate cancer.
Yes.
That's one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to make suppositories for me.
Yep.
Now, I do have my own RSO here.
Yep.
I've also got RSO, CBD, CBN, CBG.
Yep.
I'm going to be inserting all that in the suppositories.
And we're going
oh, God, that's funny.
Inserting.
Yeah, I know.
Well, to begin, before we go down there, we're going to start out with edibles. And so ask yourself, how much does a typical 5 milligram THC gummy cost you in a store? You buy a package of 20 for $20, $25, $30, right? You're spending $1 for 5 milligram for a 5 milligram gummy, a little bit more than $1 sometimes. That's pretty darn expensive, especially for people who use them on a regular basis. And if you make them at home, guess what? You can do it for pennies. I'm not kidding, for pennies. What I'm going to show you here, I'm just using CBD isolate, but you can buy THC isolate as well, or you could buy a THC crumble and that sort of thing and use that. But basically the cost works out with everything included, not including buying your scale, which you'll use for, maybe years, but all the materials, the consumable materials, we're talking about 7 to 10 cents per 5 milligrams.
Huge difference.
Per 5 milligrams. Yeah. And so what we're going to do today basically is I'm going to show you step by step how simple and easy it is.
Now this is one of those deals where you could start out and find the flower you like. Now I'm a flower person, and you're talking about THC. You give me THC in a flower between 15-19%, and you give me 3% terps. I'm one very happy camper on that.
Yeah. And you can always make your extracts too.
That's
and
it.
Turn them into edibles. And so an edible doesn't need to be a gummy, right? Something that's happened in our state is that we think about edibles as fun. And of course, that's something, kind of a way of celebrating legalization, that a fun edible is kind of an acknowledgement of the progression in justice that we've had.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are people who don't want to take something with sugar in it. There are people after they brush their teeth at night maybe don't want to take something with sugar in it. There's pediatric issues that are children with sensory deprivation, with sensory integration conditions, where something with certain textures or flavors they won't be willing to put in their mouth. But something as neutral as a gel cap could be used as an edible.
And we got some gel caps here too.
Yeah, so what I have here are gel caps come in different sizes. They're number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and 00, and 000, and those are all based upon their volume. So I
Now,
have here.
we're sure the largest because sometimes it seems to be reversed on things.
Same thing with gauges of wire. Right?
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
So the zeros, the 0, 00, 000 are the biggest. So 000 might be something like maybe 1.5 milliliters in volume, something along those lines. Whereas the smallest ones, number 5, might be like 0.2 milliliters in volume. And these here, these are number ones, and they are 0.5 milliliters in volume, and they're kind of just the easiest ones to work with mathematically. I don't know if you could see it on camera, but here's their size. They're kind of on the smaller side. They're not too small. Yeah. But they're really easy to manage. You could buy them really cheap. So I just put a few in this container, but you could buy 500 for about $10 or something like that on Amazon.
And he's got a little holding deal so you can load them up. Yeah,
and so because I make these gel caps, it's just convenient to have a little holder for them. And there's no place that I found that has holders for every different size, except there's somebody on eBay that makes them custom through a 3D printer.
eBay, there you go.
And so, just for a couple bucks, he'll make one of these things for you. So if you just were to look up gel cap holder on eBay, you'd probably find his ad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make 10 of them at this moment.
Can I help you set? Oh, these are going to be your gel caps, so I'm not going to handle them.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't.
You're welcome to have them.
Okay.
So let's just put 10 of them in.
Okay.
So I have 5 already. And then just do another 5. I'm almost done.
Which end to use? I'm taking up a lot of space here right now.
And
I don't have my glasses on, Lawrence. I can't see nothing.
So let's put keep the tops aside. Let's put the full ones back in.
Okay. We're good. We got that accomplished.
Okay. So I'll show you. Here is just, if you can see it on the camera, they're just sitting.
We can hold it up to the camera here.
Like that. Now what I'm going to do is the next step is hemp oil. You can use hemp or MCT oil. This is just a little container that I just brought in for today because I have a big container at home, and you could buy it from Amazon, and a big like 500 milliliter container is $8, $10, something in that ballpark. So they're very inexpensive. So I am going to, and I have my little.
And that's one thing, science. When you're doing science, you've got to document.
Yep. So just in terms of your equipment, the gel caps and the gel cap holder, I use a heat plate, a variable heat plate, something that people might use just to keep their coffee cup warm. And your gel caps, here's CBD isolate, a little mixer, and a scale.
Yeah, we ciphered this all out earlier for weight and volume and stuff.
Yeah, and I'll go over it again for people. So what we're going to want to have here is 5 milliliters of hemp oil. So I squeeze 5 milliliters of hemp oil into a graduated beaker here.
Okay, now you're from Canada, so you grew up with the metric system, right?
Yes.
Okay, now people in the USA, we've got to convert. That's why the metric system was so handy, because everything is so exact when you use it, measuring with metric.
Yeah, and most scientific equipment is going to be in metric.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of these things, once again, you could buy it from Amazon, you could buy it from eBay. I bought just a little kit from, I forget if it was Amazon or eBay, of just micro beakers. Again, just a couple bucks. And these little squeeze bottles, I think this is a 30 milliliter squeeze bottle. I got 10 of them for $2 or something like that, very cheap. So I have this set to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're not using metric for the temperature. And
Celsius, Fahrenheit, or Rainier.
Or Rainier?
Rainier.
What's Rainier?
Oh, you don't know about it. Oh, we're going to talk about that.
So,
okay, we're heating this up right now. Yes. It's going to have to heat up for a couple of seconds. Yeah. We're going to take a short break. Okay. Shout out to our sponsors. You're watching Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I'm sitting here with my good friend, Dr. Lawrence Pasternack. If you want to be in the audience, contact Old School and Co. and we'll send you a ticket. Tickets are free. Right on. Hope you toke up and tune back in. Welcome back to Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I hope you toked up and tuned back in. I'm sitting here talking to my good friend Dr. Lawrence Pasternack, and we're making some really cool stuff. Now, I also want to tell you, if you want to be in the audience, all you got to do is contact Old School and Co. And if you want to be a supporter or sponsor of Old School and Co., all you got to do is go to www.patreon.com/OldSchoolAndCo, and you can get tickets there. The tickets are free. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can contact us there, and we can set up to be a guest on the show. And we do all kinds of stuff like this. Right on.
Oh yeah. So, with Movie Magic, we have already
we've already made one.
Prepped one, and I don't know how well the camera.
No, that's hard. Yeah, yeah. You try to do it.
There we go.
And there you go.
Yeah, and so something that people might wonder about is, why is this not melting? Right? A gel cap, if you were to put water in it, would melt within seconds.
I really always have wondered about that.
Yeah. So it's just that the gelatin is not reactive with an oil. So yeah. So hemp oil or MCT oil could fill a gel cap, and it will be stable probably indefinitely.
Until you put it in your body and it's activated with a
saliva and so on. That's right.
Okay.
Yep. So
I have really always wondered about that.
Yep. So we have been heating 5 milliliters of hemp oil, and the idea behind heating it basically is that by raising the temperature, it just makes it easier to dissolve the cannabinoids. It's not absolutely necessary. It's a matter of temperature and time to get that dissolving.
Now this is CBD.
So this is CBD, purchased from a national company called 3 Chai, which has quite a range of different cannabinoids. It's a really impressive website.
So you could find your specific profile there if you knew it.
Yes, they have CBD, CBN, CBG, CBC. They have Delta 8. They have the new HHC. They have Delta 10, I think. They have almost everything out there with lab testing.
And I like lab testing.
Yeah. So what I have...
Okay, now show this cool little deal you got right here. I love this.
This?
Yeah. Isn't that neat?
So what I'm basically going to do is I brought to the studio today, I brought just this little container of hemp oil, which is just poured in from a big jar that I bought from Amazon. And so once we have the CBD mixed in with the heated hemp oil, I'm going to put it into this jar just so that it's easy to get into the gel caps. There's lots of different ways of doing it. I actually also have micro pipettes. For those who are familiar with micro pipettes, that gets a little more complicated. But if you want to have very precise combinations, you can do it that way as well. And probably once we have everything made, I can go over all the equipment again.
Okay.
Because, you know, the equipment, none of this is really that expensive, but it'll probably cost you something in the ballpark of $50 to get all the equipment you need.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah. And
to make cheap medicine for yourself at the house.
Yeah. So basically you'll have as many edibles as you want for pennies each.
Cool.
Okay. So.
And you could get them in pineapple. I like pineapple.
I suppose you can get pineapple flavors too. That's right. You could always purchase terpenes and mix your terpenes in.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
So my next step is, let me turn on my little scale here.
Now we've in the industry, we're all familiar with these small scales.
Yep. That's a joke. And this is CBD. And since basically I'm just going to make a 5 milligram CBD gel cap, I'm going to put 50 milligrams of CBD onto the scale. That's too much.
It's amazing how accurate these small digital scales are.
Yes, it is, isn't it? And there's, I'm sure some are more accurate than others.
Oh, back in the day, we always used triple beams, you know.
Yeah. So, almost there. There we go. A tad under, it's at 48 now. So just to be precise.
I drive production crazy.
There we go. 50 milligrams.
All right, right on.
Okay. So, take
And now we're going to mix the CBD oil in with that, correct?
So we're mixing the CBD in with the hemp oil.
Okay, cool. Might have to use your scraper there, yeah. Now that should readily dissolve too, right?
Yep, usually just a bit of stirring is all that's needed.
That's it. CBD does accept numerous agents whenever you try to put it in there.
Yeah, and so I am using just CBD here, but it will work the same if you had a THC isolate,
Right.
or basically any cannabinoid, that it will dissolve in most oils. So it'll dissolve in a hemp oil, it'll dissolve in MCT oil, and it's already dissolved.
Cool.
So once you heat this up, it'll dissolve really fast. You can do it at room temperature as well, but then it just takes a bit more stirring and time.
Yeah.
But
now you're going to transfer it to the little squirty bottle?
Yep. And so I heated this up at 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So put it above room temperature, but below the temperature where there would be decarboxylation. So even though this is already decarboxylated, you don't want conversion. For if you had THC and you heated it up, then it could start converting into CBN. So
now I have had people that have tried to decarb stuff too much.
Yeah.
And it will basically ruin it.
That's right. So what will happen is the THC will then become CBN.
There you go.
Yeah. So you heat it up just enough so that it's just easy for the powder to dissolve. And so if I wanted to, for instance, make a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, then I would put in this context, I'd put in 50 milligrams of CBD and 50 milligrams of THC. If you were to purchase the THCA, then you'd want to decarboxylate it before,
right.
But you could purchase THC as already decarboxylated. So you might be wondering, where could I buy all these? And so, as I said, you could buy all of the federally legal cannabinoids through a website such as 3Chai, but also locally there are a few dispensaries that do sell isolates. Urban Wellness, which has locations both in Edmond
right.
and Norman, have most cannabinoids as isolates, and so you could buy CBD, CBG, and THC and THCA there, and I think they also have Delta 8 isolate.
Right.
In the form of a powder. You could also get it in the form of an oil. But they're pretty abundant. They have quite a large inventory at the one in Edmond. I've not seen the one in Norman, but I'm guessing it's the same.
I've been to the one in Norman several times.
So I'm now pouring that solution into this container, and I'm just pouring it into the container to make it easier to fill the gel caps with.
Because that's got a little squirty deal on the end of it.
That's right. So there we go. And I put the cap on that has like a little syringe on top of it.
Right.
And so I set this up for just 10 capsules at this time, and I just did the math this way. So it's 50 milliliters of oil going into these in total. So I'm going to basically get
and it's just dribbling in there. You might not be able to see that, but it's just dribbling in there. He's filling these up. And we did do all the math earlier. We've got all that written down. That's a handy little holder, because that would be hard to fill by hand.
Oh, yeah.
Now, see, this is labor intensive. That's something you want to do at your house, and that's where you save on the money too, making these. And again, this is one of those deals where I would be making this with RSO or THC for me, because I like the gel caps. They're easy to take. We've got some patients that can't take our flour or different ways like that, and this is a good way for them to ingest different products.
And just because a little bit got left behind in here, I didn't quite have enough in it to fill the 10, but now you put the lids on.
Okay, cool. Now, we started this process with Jeb Green from Orca, and we started out with our basic flour. We made keef out of that, then we made hash out of that, Then we took that hash and we made rosin out of that. Now I'm going to make some suppositories. Next week I'm going to have the Dad Father and the Blunts Man on, and we're going to take that original product that we took and we're going to make suppository. We're going to make RSO, and then I'm going to make some suppositories for myself. So I hope you toke up and tune back in. You're watching Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Dr. Lawrence Pasternack here is just working away to get all this CBD in all these capsules. Keep following us. If you want to be in the audience, all you got to do is contact Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Or if you want to be a supporter or a sponsor of Wake and Bake with Old School and Co., you can go to www.patreon.com. That's Patreon, patreon.com, Old School and Co., and be a supporter, or you can be a sponsor. Right on.
So
you can be in the audience, and we have a fun time in the audience too. He doesn't know what he's doing. All right, you've been watching Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I'm sitting here with my good friend Dr. Lawrence Pasternack. We're showing you a segment of all the things we can do with our home grow. I hope you toke up and tune back in next week.